Good afternoon and welcome. I'm
Thank you.
out with Brilliant Life Community. I'm
Okay.
with Janelle Schulman, Interagency Coordinator, Facilitator, and Project Lead for Dakota County Social Services. That's a mouthful. Janelle, thank you very much for agreeing to join me.
Thanks.
First question, what is an interagency coordinator?
Yeah, it's a unique title. Originally, I was called the Collaborative Coordinator. So we have a Dakota County Integrated Children's Mental Health and Family Service Collaborative. And so, but then they kept adding on collaboratives to my duties to facilitate. So then, like, well, anything that has to do, any collaborative, whether it's a project, whether it's a team that has to do with school people, county people, nonprofits, I organize a lot of those groups and committees, and a lot of times they're around a specific issue. And so that's what I do. I feel like I'm a meeting facilitator for people who want to get together to improve services for kiddos and families.
Excellent. Can you tell me just a little bit about each one of those organizations?
Yep. So the main one is called I call it the Collaborative, but it's called Dakota County Integrated Children's Mental Health and Family Service Collaborative. There are 87 collaboratives around Minnesota, and they all participate in this weird thing called a time study. And a time study draws down federal money. And that federal money comes into the collaborative through school districts participate in the time study, public health, and juvenile corrections. And so we draw down about, right now, it's going to change probably, $1 million a year. And our collaborative board, which is all the directors of special ed, social services, juvenile corrections, CAP Head Start, then decide what to do with that money. And that money often goes into two things. About half of it goes into mental health prevention and intervention services, and the other half goes into like what we call family support services. But we meet every year, decide where that money goes, develop the contracts, and then also we meet to look at system issues too. So how we're communicating, how are we improving things? Like right now we have a subcommittee that's focused on looking at day treatment options for youth in Dakota County. We have another group that works on our school-linked mental health providers. So just kind of different issues that pop up, then we kind of work on those. So that's the main collaborative. And then the other one are actually subcommittees of the collaborative. We have one called it's another mouthful, Interagency Early Childhood Committee. And that's focused on children with special needs, ages birth to 5. And initially when we started, we thought of really more disabled children with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. But in the last 5 years, we've really think of children with special needs as any child can have special needs during their life based on circumstances. So I would say in 5 years, it's more intentional, including kids with mental health issues, kids with trauma, kids who just have a need to link in the community. And so that is focused on mainly on early childhood. So those are probably the two main collaboratives that I predominantly run. And then Shannon Bailey in Public Health and I run another one. It's called the Dakota County Healthy Communities Collaborative. And that's why I sent you that listing, because there's so many. And that is like that is strictly a resource networking and sharing committee. And so that only meets 4 times a year. We plan the large South of the River Mental Health Summit. And so every committee has its different purposes, and some people attach just because they want to get resources and updates, and other people's attached because they really want to dive into policy and procedure work. So that's a lot of the collaboratives I work on.
Wow, you do a lot of different things.
Yeah, I do. And then because I'm embedded in what we call our Children and Family Services Department, so they also give me tasks related to child welfare, child protection. So I lead our Safe and Healthy Start Collaborative, which is our collaborative that works to address reports of prenatal exposure, so when women are using chemicals while pregnant. I also do all our truancy and educational neglect data. So yeah, a lot of different projects.
Well, it's exciting, I'm sure.
And now all the COVID-19 resources, yeah. So it's
right. So how would I know, I'm coming to you, how would I know which one is right for my situation?
Right. Well, usually when someone comes in, I'll send them that listing that I just gave you, and I'll say, I'll take a look at it, and um, and I usually call them and I'll consult which one has what's the biggest interest, because there are so many, and I would hate for someone to come to a meeting and then find out like, I this is not me, or I don't want this level of engagement, or I'm interested here. Or what you might find out that, especially if you work like you're a mental health provider, you might find out that, you know, this staff person should attend this group and this person should attend that group. We may have, so that's where that is. But usually I'll work with people to find the most appropriate match for them. But I also am looking at like, what are you specifically wanting or needing from a group?
Great. What brought you to this line of work?
So I have an undergraduate degree in social work. So I'm a social worker at core. That's who I am. And then I have a master's in public administration. And so I was a child protection worker for 15 years. And I loved working with the families I worked with, but I also had a bigger desire to know the why. Why do we do the things we do with families? Where does funding come from? How come schools and counties have difficulty with communication? So when this opportunity came, it was perfect because I like to put together puzzles. I like making sure that my job is really about, it shouldn't matter where a child lives in Dakota County, whether you live in a resource-rich school district or a school district that is really struggling or a community that has struggled, that family should have access to the same information and resources. Because one of the things I hate hearing is that, oh, I didn't know my child was eligible for services for 5 to 10 years because no one told me. And that's my goal is like, I want families to be informed. They ultimately drive the bus on what they want to access. But it breaks my heart when I hear that somebody could have been receiving really a lot of good support for their child early in their child's life. And now it's kind of later in adolescence and it's really hard to do that catch up. So, yeah.
How long have you been doing this?
So I've been at Dakota County 22 years, and so I think this is my 11th year as the coordinator.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. How did you discover your passion?
How did I discover my passion? Well, social work has been so I have an older sister who has a developmental disability and who's also adopted. And so we had social workers in our family helping us. And at that time, it was the 70s. And not a lot of supports for people with disabilities. The only alternatives were really institutionalization and group homes, and not a lot of support and advocacy to support families in raising a member with a developmental disability. And so that's kind of started my passion. We had a social worker that was just really good with our whole family and was really supportive of me going into the field of social work. And so that was an avenue. And then I worked at a really, really small county and doing a big brother, big sister program for Spanish speaking youth. And at that time, it was the county administrator said, you know, have you ever thought about doing other things in county government besides social work? And so he really mentored me and then thought, you know, like maybe you should consider a degree in public administration so that you can do other things working in government and not narrow your scope to social work. And so that's kind of where I discovered that passion. So I've had a lot of really good mentors over the years.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
How has the quarantine changed your business?
Oh, goodness. Well, I would say that, you know, obviously just the upfront work of making sure our operations move, but also just resources. But you know, what we're seeing right now is just a significant decrease in the number of people reaching out for mental health assistance. So what we used to see of people coming in and looking for mental health support, that's not happening right now. And I think because people have to make so many decisions every day, it's too complicated to make that next step. So we're just seeing a significant decrease in the number of referrals for mental health supports. And then I'm seeing, I used to get about 200 emails a day, just people saying, do you have this resource or how I can connect? And a lot of that happened because people saw somebody at a meeting or passed in the hallway and said, oh, you should email Janelle or you should do this. So those natural collaborations that happen through human contact aren't happening. So I'm not getting a lot of calls or requests for resources or connections. So that is the significant change. And I'm trying to figure out like, how do we build those natural conversations into our work right now? Because right now it seems like all our meetings are really just about business. Like, let's just get down to business. But really where the real work happens, the real collaboration is in those casual conversations. That's how my work has changed significantly. And then it's just really shifted to COVID specific work of operations and duties. So, but it's getting back to normal, but I do worry about just those natural connections that we have with people.
Great. Do you have any articles or blogs that you'd like to share with us or provide a link to? Anything?
No, I don't do any articles or blogs professionally. I am a humor writer on my side life, but I won't be sharing.
I love that. Oh, that's wonderful. Is there anyone else that, you know, any other articles of someone else or anything that you might recommend?
Oh, that I would recommend?
Sure.
I think like there's so much right now that it's just, I think that's one of the challenges of COVID right now, that there's so much information and to filter about what you need. You
mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you think our audience should know about what you do or your agencies?
What we do and what we do in our agency? That's a good question. You know, I think one of the important pieces that I have liked about the collaborative is that a lot of programs that we fund came from parents being very vocal about what they need. So we fund NAMI, parent support group, individual parent support, and that came out of parents with children with significant mental illness saying, you know, I don't need a clinical service anymore. What I need to do is talk to people about what it's like to have a child who's never invited to a birthday party or will have a meltdown in the middle of Target and people will look at me and judge me. That's what I need the most. And so NAMI came out of that. An additional, we recently funded Issaroon, which is a Somali East African agency. And that came out of East African and Somali families saying, I have a hard time navigating county services. It's difficult for English speakers, but for Somali speakers and families who are more leery of government services, it's especially difficult. Do you have anything culturally specific? And then also like funding, we fund Treehouse and Treehouse Next. And again, that's coming from youth saying, again, that's that you have a DBT program, that's great that you have CBT, that you have day treatment, but I want a place where I can have friends and connections with kids that are just like me. And so that's the beauty of the collaborative. I mean, yes, we have to fund things that are essential, like we fund a lot of social work positions at school and different mental health, but I think when we kind of get caught up in service delivery, we have to really lean into what families really want and know that there are some services that really move families in that has nothing to do with clinical services, but is all about support and connection. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Janelle, thank you so much for your time today.
No problem.
Great works that you do in the community. and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to speak to you again down the road as things change and move in our society. Yeah, we look forward to that.
Okay, great. Thanks for interviewing me. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
Bye.